And I think there we go. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our talk today. It's going to be the three of us. It's going to be Tom, Chris, and myself. First things, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us. This is the first and hopefully ongoing series about sales and marketing and co-op marketing and how they can work well together. A couple of technical things here. First, everything's going to be recorded and there's going to be a transcript, which we will send out to everyone after the meeting. So if you have any questions or are not taking notes right now, you'll be able to go back and refer to things. The second thing is we do have a Q&A tab at the top. And that's where if you have any questions, you please post them there. And then the three of us can all see those. And then we'll just get to those as we go through the meeting. Everything here should take about 40 minutes or so for the chat between Chris and Tom. And then we're going to have a Q&A session. We'll go over any questions that we did not get to through the discussion. And then we will say thank you very much for attending everything with us. So we'd like to start with here first is we'll go through profiles. My name is Jeff McCandless. I'm the host. I'm the founder of Plaid Mug. And what we have done is create a platform that allows companies to manage their co-op marketing spend better. It's a SaaS platform. Our clients are a wide variety of sizes, some having as few as 3 or 4 people, others up to 2 to 250 people using it. And I thought it would be a good thing to talk with Tom and Chris. They've had lots of years of experience in both marketing and sales and trying to get both of them to work well together. So Tom, if you could give a slightly better bio for yourself, I'd appreciate it than what I just gave.
Sure thing. Jeff, thanks for bringing this together. I appreciate it. One thing to start with, Jeff, I think your co-market program, part of the reason I volunteered to do this is I think it's very compelling and solves a great solution. And later on, we'll talk about that. But I see genuine value in what the program can do and where it can bring. My name is Tom Zimmerman. I'm the founder and operator of Shift Sales Training and Consulting. Short and sweet, I improve the top line performance of companies and individuals. As my business is called Shift Sales Training and Consulting, when I started it, I thought I would be doing a lot of sales training and a little consulting. What I have learned is most companies think they need sales training, but really there's a lot of things that are not aligned, including sales and marketing. And so I wind up doing a lot more consulting, and sales training happens to be one of the levers that we pull. So it's really interesting to see when companies think they know what they want, but they don't always know what they need. And I think that's analogous to what we see with sales and marketing and the two different divisions or one division, depending on the company and where they go. So with that, I'll hand it over to Chris Baldwin, Chief Visionary Officer of True Digital Communications.
Tom, thank you. And Tom, I think you didn't give enough of who you are here. Tom, real quick, experience with what brands in the industry? I know that we've got some building products folks here on the line as well.
Yeah, I've got over 20 years of building material experience. Companies like Trex Decking, AZEK Building Products, formerly Boral, now a division of Westlake, and a few others along the way.
I'm just going to use that as also my launching point here to talk a little bit about myself. My name is Chris Baldwin. I am the Chief Visionary Officer and founder of True Digital Communications. We are a business-to-business marketing firm, utilizing obviously first and foremost digital to bring it all together. I was so excited to have this discussion, and when Jeff came to me and said, look, I hear you all the time talk about clients where things aren't working, where sales and marketing aren't aligned, and where marketing and sales really come together like this versus coming like this. And so I love this type of a topic. I'm glad to see that we have so many interested parties here to listen and take some, hopefully we'll be able to share some good information. But I should also mention True is, we believe in being specialists, not generalists. We're very focused on the building products, manufacturing, companies and brands. We understand two-step distribution. We understand how to really influence at different points in the marketing sales funnel. But I think more importantly, as we go through this, the other reason is have a lot of experience with co-op programs, and I've seen the very best and I've seen the very worst. And that's one of the reasons when Jeff asked about this, I said, we need to have this conversation because I've seen some awful waste of money with co-op programs that could be a whole lot better. So with that.
With that, as everyone is aware, hopefully, the topic today is when sales and marketing work together, great things can happen. And I think we're going to have Tom start off with where he thinks a good starting point with this conversation is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jeff. When I think about sales and marketing working together, ideally it's a top level corporate strategy where a business isn't just driving for a revenue goal or a profit goal. A revenue goal and a profit goal, those are results. It's when the company has their why, right? When they know what they're trying to be beyond revenue or profit. If you get your why right, we want to be the leading brand of X. We want to be the fastest growing Y. We have something that we're working to leave an impression with our customers and we're driving towards. When that corporate strategy starts at the top and it cascades down into the sales organization and the marketing organization, whether sales and marketing are one or they're separate organizations, when they're both moving towards a common North Star, we start to see alignment. And I like to think of it as sales and marketing should be running in parallel. They know what each other is doing, they have common goals, and they're working collectively to achieve those goals. Too often, maybe it's ego, maybe it's separate strategy, maybe it's personality differences. Sales is on one hand, marketing is on the other, and they're both noise to the other. They sit in a boardroom together, but they can be, they may be feet apart physically, but they're miles apart strategically with different thoughts, different opinions. There may be a hatred or a rub or a personality dispute between the head of sales and head of marketing. You see that often. And that's when sales and marketing intersect. They're not running parallel, but they make an intersection and they run back in their own separate directions. There's plenty of examples and instances where you see that. Chris, I'm sure this is one you and I can spend hours talking about as we have walked, I don't even know how many miles of trade shows together. But I think about trade shows. That's an event where sales and marketing, they can either run together or they can intersect. And it's a canary in a coal mine of where they go well and where they don't go well. And so again, as we talk about how they run together, a well-executed trade show can drive ROI for a company, for a business. Or it can just be a line item expense where they sit back at the end of the year and went, how much money did we spend on that show? Was it even worth it? We can put that to the bottom line or other initiatives because they're not doing the right things to make the trade show effective.
I'm going to jump in here a little bit with this as well, because I do hear this a lot. And Tom just gave a really good definition of where when marketing sales are not aligned, what that looks like. One of the things that I have seen is oftentimes you've got the sales team. Well, what are they looking at? They're looking at revenue. They're looking at sales. And that might be quotas. That might be specifics that they're trying to hit. That gets translated to the marketing team of, well, if I need sales, I need revenue. What do I need from you? Well, I need better awareness. I need people to know more about my brand. If you're using the funnel, we're talking about top of funnel here. I need activities to pull people in. Hey, Tom, I think we're getting a little interference on your mic. I want to mute it there. You get into a situation where, yes, on the surface, hey, if I generate more awareness, then sales is going to generate more sales, and that should be alignment, right? Well, that's the first mistake, because there's a lot of different ways to do this. And what Tom just pointed about, that intersection point that occurs, and it might be at a trade show, it could be, that meeting at the very beginning of the year when we talk about what our goals are. That can be that moment, but the reality is the two have to be working together. The analogy that Tom just gave about sitting in a boardroom and having the salesperson and the marketing person sitting right next to each other, but being miles apart. Been there, done that. It's obvious that they're hearing totally different things and they're not thinking about how this all works together. The reverse of that, and I'm pleased to say that we're very fortunate at True to have several clients where this is the case. You've got marketing sales like this. They are talking and they are going out on sales calls together to hear exactly what sales is hearing. And marketing is saying, hey, what tools can I help to help either push this through the sales process, or what tools can I give to help Tom or his counterparts do a little bit better job with it. It's also sales coming back and saying, hey, we have this show. Hey, there's a timeliness to our sales cycle. I need some things that are in advance of that. Well, let's talk about what fits. What's a natural? There's when we look at marketing, a lot of times, especially when we're talking about raising awareness, you can make a lot of noise. Yeah, I can get your, and trust me, you want to spend enough money, I can get your brand everywhere. But is there any real value to that? And that's where marketing and sales need to come together, because if I'm creating awareness, but I'm creating awareness that makes sense, that gets that key audience that we're going after, say, I want to learn more about that, or strike that point where it really resonates. That's where sales and marketing come together, because that's where I should be able to have a good conversation with my counterpart in the sales team and say, let's look at what success looks like. Let's look what a successful interaction between sales and marketing actually is. It's not, hey, I got $1 million budget, or more, more likely, I've got $100,000 budget. Well, how can I stretch this? Well, we need to start and talk to sales first and find out, when do they need the emphasis? When do they need the support? And I think that that's the opportunity. But I believe it starts first and foremost where the goals are misaligned to begin with. Hey, I'm marketing, I'm going to raise awareness. And if I raise awareness, naturally sales are just going to happen. It's not that easy, not in this world anymore. So,
No. Well, along those lines, Tom, what do you think about taking those ideas and how to generate leads moving forward for both sales and marketing then?
actually,
Yeah.
trade shows. I
Oh,
think that's a
trade. I'm sorry.
comment. That's
Yeah,
a really good one to hit on.
yeah. No, sorry. Change that back to trade shows. I apologize.
No problem. Trade shows, it is an alignment of sales and marketing. And a lot of times what you find is, before the trade show, marketing secures the booth space. They secure the sponsorships. They do everything that they can to be sure the brand is presented properly, the booth is organized, it's well laid out, and everyone knows what's going on. They then bring in the sales team to work a trade show, and they just plop them in the trade show saying, hey, we know how to create the brand. We know how to get us in here. We know how to create the PR and the buzz, but we don't know what sales does. Sales knows what they do. So we're just going to plop them in the trade show and then tell them to work the trade show. Now, sales shows up at the trade show. They may be a little hungover from the night before, tired from travel. They know that, hey, so-and-so is launching this product. I've got to be sure I talk about that product. Maybe there's a pre-show meeting at the booth where they walk around the booth and they tour, and someone from marketing talks about how special this function is or this feature is, and we're going to have a barista in the booth from 3 to 5 or whatnot. And then the sales team, they stand in the booth with their hands in their pockets, congregating with each other, talking to each other, and a client walks up to the booth, and the first thing that they say is, can I answer any questions for you? There's no alignment towards a goal. They take someone who's interested in the product and turn them into a tire kicker. When I walk up to a booth and someone says, can I answer any questions for you? I say, nope, just looking, thanks, and walk away, because I don't know what question to ask. And so I'm embarrassed. And so the sales team, they don't have a strategy for working the booth. They don't know what they're trying to do there. And we back up to that corporate strategy or that overarching goal. Why are we at a trade show? Maybe at a trade show to create buzz for a new product, but more often than not, we're at a trade show to generate leads, to capture information for us to follow up on. And Chris, as you talked about the funnel, a little higher on the funnel, we qualify them, we show them, we spark their interest, and then we have takeaways. We know where we're going from it. Maybe I just need to scan their badge, but what happens next? There's not an alignment on that. Marketing doesn't say to sales, hey, our goal is to get 300 leads per day. Or marketing doesn't say to sales, hey, we're trying to generate $500,000 of new revenue out of this booth. So when you're doing this, be sure you're asking these 3 things or have these 3 takeaways. They're too cautious and oftentimes nervous about what sales is going to do. Sales is busy thinking, hey, I'm out of my market. I've got 3 customers calling me. I've got 7 emails to reply to. I've got 2 product related issues. I don't have time for this. Or this show is dead. The show isn't what it used to be. So they have the wrong approach, the wrong attitude, and they don't know what their takeaways are going to be. Regardless, they're looking at the lagging indicators, the results from the show. Did we get this? Did we get that? They're not looking at the leading indicators of how many people did I talk to? How many people am I going to ask for a follow-up action or a follow-up question? Lagging indicators are results. And if you don't plan your results through proper leading indicators, you're never going to generate the right results strategically. Chris, you've heard me say this, I don't know, 1,000 times. I use what I call a weight loss analogy. If generating revenue, which is a lagging indicator, is like losing weight, also a lagging indicator. I want to lose 20 pounds in 90 days. My wife doesn't need to wait to day 45 to see did I lose 10 pounds. She wants to see at the end of the first week that my behavior has changed. My pattern has changed. I've gone to the gym 5 days this week. I ate properly 5 days this week. I drank my water allotment. She can tell by those inputs, by the direction I'm heading, that I'm on path to lose that weight. Chris, you and I walk up to a trade show, we walk up to a booth, and we immediately know, is that team going to the gym and eating right? Are they going to generate the results they want out of that trade show or not, by those leading indicators? And too often, marketing and sales aren't aligned on what they're trying to do. They intersect at the trade show and there's not common alignment.
Tom, that was really well said. And before I get into my answer on this, I want to put it back at you because this is a conversation we've had a lot. Tom's point, and I'm sure many of the companies that are on the webinar today have done this. You're at the show, salesperson's there, and what's the logical first question they ask? Can I help you? Which, yeah, makes sense. But Tom, what's the actual better question to ask?
You can only ask questions about things you know about. If I don't know enough about your business, a lot of times sales doesn't know enough about marketing, so they don't know what to ask. Ask the client, ask the prospect a question they can answer. What brings you to the show this year? Are you looking for anything particular to come out of this trade show? Tell me about your business and what you're trying to accomplish. Ask them questions about them that they know how to answer. If you say, can I answer any questions for you? You've put the work on them. They don't know what to ask, and they're going to turn into a tire kicker. If you can engage them in a conversation about them and you listen to what they say to understand, you can start forming a shape of where they need to go and how you can engage them in the booth. But can I answer any questions is ultimately the worst way to address someone. What brings you to the show this year? What are you looking to take away from the show this year? Ask them about their strategy for that, or ask them about what type of work they can do. Those are questions they can answer, and they'll start revealing more to how you can help them through your trade show booth.
What Tom is hitting on, and this is something that we try and do through marketing as well. What openers can I give you? What open-ended questions, and I'm going to use one of Tom's analogies here too. I want to give you a question where I can start pulling the thread on that sweater, and I can start to learn about your business. So think about that same thing though, going into a trade show or a conference from a marketing perspective. And this is why sales and marketing have to be aligned. Now, if you needed me and said, hey, Chris, we want a lot of booth traffic, and this is the target audience I'm looking for. We can set up programs obviously in advance where we've got emails going out before the show, and we've got things that are going to pop up on your cell phone saying stop by booth XYZ for our cappuccino machine between 12 and 4 or whatever that might be. That's fine. That's tactical. I think the bigger discussion comes down before all of that. And Tom's right. Oftentimes, at least with a lot of the clients that I've seen over the years, sales and marketing get together maybe an hour before the show opens on the first day. It's a chance to walk and get everybody comfortable with the booth, understanding the design, talking about what new products we're going to be pushing, etc. Again, all valuable. I don't want to take anything away from that. Point of the matter is, though, the discussions that are happening then should have taken place way in advance. If I'm talking to my sales component before a show, what I'm looking for is, hey, tell me the companies that you're looking for, the brands. We talk about account-based marketing. If I know what the brands are that we're trying to attract and the people that are on, in this case, Tom's list for, here's my white whales. Here's the ones that we're looking for, that we're going to be fishing for. All right, now I have a better sense of what we're looking for, and I can then start to say, okay, how do I attract them? How do I make a case for them? But more importantly, now that Tom's told me, hey, these are the types of things I'm looking for, I can then sit here and come back to them and say, all right, so if we're getting companies of this variety or this type, you're telling me who your wish list is. What if our experience incorporated more show and tell? Maybe we have demos. Maybe, you start to get into a much more bigger discussion where sales and marketing are working together. And that's an important part of this. The other part of this is hitting on that experience. Oftentimes, I see salespeople working the booths or working the conference or whatever it might be, and you got the marketing people sitting back here. Yes, they're making sure that everything's going smoothly and somebody's not walking off with all the samples or whatever that might be, and that's an important role. I don't want to take away from that. But one of the best things I've seen marketing people do, sales and the prospect are standing here, marketing should be standing right here. I want to listen to the discussion. I want to hear what's coming up. I want to find out if there's something notes that I can be taking. I find that those opportunities are great for learning about the business and actually what's happening with sales. That's a missed opportunity. But once you have that opportunity, the two of you to work together on it, then it becomes after the prospect is left, hey, really liked how you hit on it. Hey, I think we need to get a piece here. So it's a great opportunity for intelligence as you're going here. But coming back to where Tom started this about what is the actual goal? It shouldn't be, hey, we're looking for anybody that walks by to see how many of those people we can pull in here. But, are we looking for this much booth traffic? Are we looking for this number? I think you need to have those discussions because that gets into tangible, real numbers that you can then start to really build a program around.
Chris, I think about from the sales side, things that salespeople ask for that marketing can deliver. Probably the top three things to come to mind are T-shirts, koozies, and leads.
Not necessarily in that order.
But those are common things that salespeople say they need, right? And if we go back to the sales classic, Glengarry Glen Ross, right? They want the leads. Yes. God, I can go on for quotes about that movie for hours. But nonetheless, right? People want leads. Chris, I know sales organizations probably through their marketing team say, we want leads, we want leads, we want leads. A lot of what you do is lead gen. So we talked about one tactic of trade shows. Where do you see marketing and sales either aligned or misaligned on that request? Because it seems to me asking for more leads is a pretty specific goal. And if marketing can deliver leads, and you've just brought a great tool to the sales team, that doesn't seem like that always works from our conversations. Can you elaborate a little on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Tom. And one of the things that we see is, yes, a lot of times it's, hey, we want a lot of leads from this show. Okay, good to know. What are we actually selling? Is this something where people are going to get the value immediately, or do they need some form of demonstration? Do I need special graphics here? So understanding exactly what's going to hook, what's going to pull them in. Do I need to tell the story immediately right off the bat? Probably not, but at the very least, I need to give something that's going to get people to say, hey, I want to learn more about that. What is going on over there? So aligning yourself with the sales team, understanding exactly what a successful sales interaction should be. Okay, now I've got a sense of what the flow should be, type of questions they're going to be asked. And then you start to lay out a plan for how that might be. One of the biggest mistakes that I see when it comes to marketing around a trade show for lead generation is you spend so much emphasis on the show. And I get it. You're spending a lot of money to bring your sales team in there, booth space, all of the meals and entertainment. There's a lot there. But having the right pieces in advance so that you have them after the fact, making sure that, hey, we've got a new product coming out. So we probably should have a lot of different sell sheets or other materials. Maybe it's automation, maybe it's animation, maybe it's other things in place in advance that we can perhaps do some pre-show work with, or things that we can then bring back after the show so that salesperson can say, I don't need to sell you on everything here at the show. But, and this is something that this is one of my pet peeves when, hey, here's the show. We got 300 leads. We need to now send an email. Okay. I'm going to say thanks. All right. There's the first sentence. What about everything else? What were they interested in? Is this a follow-up? Do they need a sample? I know that automation is making it a lot easier to do these things at shows, but I am shocked at how often that information is not specified. And that's why, as a marketer, I need to let Tom know, hey, here's the follow-throughs that we can use to qualify that lead, to see if they're going to take a step beyond this, or, hey, they're only interested in this one thing. Let's show them that we're listening to them, because you win points when that interaction with that salesperson at that booth or at that conference, and they come back and say, hey, it was great talking with you. Here's what we talked about, or here you had an interest in this. Here is access to the sell sheet. Here's the training video that we have with it. Hey, here are reps in your area or dealers in your area that have that product. So think about the entire process in terms of how it all comes together. Again, I think all too often it's that 1 minute. Hey, they're at the show. We got to get their attention. We got to get them in here. That's what a great booth should do. But script the experience, understand what's going to happen, and make sure sales and marketing are both involved in this. And there's a natural place where sales and marketing can take over.
Oh, that's fantastic, guys. I think that leads into how you guys think co-op programs can be tied into this, because I think everything you're talking about is building that transparency between the teams. It's building relationships internally, but then how with outside suppliers? I mean, do these principles stay the same when you're trying to build, like, for instance, a lot of people who are probably dealing with encumbered versus unencumbered funds, building the relationship to the point where money can move from encumbered back to unencumbered funds. And that requires transparency, trust, knowledge that things are actually going along. And we actually have a couple questions I'll get to here in a second that came in. But I was wondering if you guys had any thoughts on that very broad question that I just asked.
Yeah, I'll start if that's all right with you, Chris.
Yeah.
When I think about co-op programs and really any marketing initiative, I think about generational businesses. And there's an adage out there that the first generation creates the business, the second generation grows the business, and the third generation kills the business, right? That's not always the case. And as we're evolving as as our business society goes, sometimes it goes beyond the third and fourth, and there's great multi-generational businesses. But that adage of create it, grow it, kill it, co-op marketing programs are a lot of times implemented out of need or necessity, out of a necessity. And so you have this first generation of the teams that created and implemented the co-op program. And then you have the second generation who they know why the program was created and they need to optimize it, they need to grow with it, and they really start harnessing it and putting it into place. Well, the third generation just absorbs that program that was already there. When I talk about first generation, second generation, and third generation, well, when the company was started in 2009, we implemented this co-op program, and we ran that co-op program effectively, and we've done it since 2009. Well, how many people in the marketing or sales organization were here in 2009? Well, half of them started in 2012. That's great. They started in 12. They overlapped with that first generation, and there was discipline and diligence behind the co-op marketing program. Well, it's 2025. How many people were employed in 2012? 13. Was there any overlap there? No. So those people that created that co-op program that really implemented it and used it well, now it's 2025. And it's just something we've always done. Some of the most dangerous words in business. So now what had a functional benefit, maybe business has evolved and the co-op program is no longer the right tool. Or maybe the way the co-op program operates is no longer the right tool. So now it's just become a means or a catch-all to get funds into your customer channel or into your distribution channel, and that's all it is. Well, how do we know it's effective? What are we measuring? What are we looking at? How are we tracking it? The co-op programs that I was a part of at Trex, at AZEC, which those were established businesses, I in that first generation, right? Some of them were done well, some weren't, but the commonality of them was it was an administrative time suck. It took what should be partner alignment, turn them into reactionary adversaries. Oh, I'm going to turn in $1,000 co-op expense, and the company's going to turn around and challenge it, ask for proof, ask for documentation. Well, we'll procrastinate on it. So we're doing all of this in October and November for the end of the year before the co-op funds reset. And it truly becomes a nightmare. It turns advocates into adversaries. And what the program is has completely lost its merit. And by the way, we're tracking it on spreadsheets. So who updated that spreadsheet? Who had access to it? Well, I sent this and your rep said it was approved. Well, does he have the approval level to do that? It's just, I had the privilege of launching our division at Boral from scratch, right? The sales and marketing side of it. We had great operations, great corporate alignment, but went to the go-to-market side. And because I was a part of that first generation, as we brought in the sales team for the second generation, we were really able to navigate that and steer it. And it was a very effective program, but we had reviews. We validated what we were doing with it and we made it work well. Well, that was 2009, here it is 2025. Maybe the owners of the business are still using that program, but they don't know why. They don't know what the messaging is, and it hasn't cascaded in that way. Chaos has happened since then. So I'm hoping they're onto a better or different program at this point. But it's part of the reason, Jeff, when you presented the idea of co-market to me, I'm like, wow, there's tracking, there's measures, there's accountability, there's timestamps, there's so many things there that bring visibility and accountability to a program. Now, if you ask me what's the perfect product, I'm going to ask you what's your application? What are you trying to achieve? And that starts back to, is a co-op program the right program for us? And if it is, what's our measure? What are we doing for it? And from what I've seen of your program, Jeff, you have a tremendous amount of customization and tracking and limits of authority and a lot of things that you can put in to make it work for the program. Chris, that's me from a sales side. How have you seen co-op programs either work or fail, just operate from a marketing side? What's your perspective on it?
I think oftentimes it's I'm going to call it a necessary evil. It's one of those things where, hey, we have to do it because our competition is doing it. Okay, I get it. So that's leveling the playing field. We all need to do it because it's expected. But when you have a really standout program, when you give things to your dealers or your distributors that they can then use to actually promote the brand, or better yet, actually give them sales leads that then they can work throughout. That's the type of co-op program. That's what it should be. It should be reinforcing. It should be giving people a reason to have these conversations. I think all too often it's viewed from very reactive. Oh, okay, we need to get brochures out. We need to get, they're going to have a barbecue on Friday. It's going to be a product education class. Here's what we're looking for. I think that the brands that step in front of this and realize this should be a branded experience. This should be an opportunity that we say, hey, if you're going to have these things, here is what we have as the manufacturer available to you, and here's what we're asking of you to do. I think one of the things that often we see, and I think Tom's exactly right, hey, here's the bill for the event I did last Friday. Okay, wait a minute. Who was the audience? Who came? What am I actually paying for? Or, hey, we had a golf event. I love that one. We had a golf event, and we put your logo on golf balls, and here's the invoice for that. And if you could please pay that. I think this is where we need to look and say, look, there's an opportunity to do more. Part of that is, can you honestly do more if your entire co-op program is really run on an Excel spreadsheet? No, it's excuse me, it's talking in advance and figuring out what are the pieces that you want to offer. What are the engaged experiences that you're looking for? How do we bring sales and marketing together to say, hey, if these 5 dealers are going to be using this program, what can we be doing to create a branded experience so that customer or that prospect that comes into their location says, hey, I'm really impressed. You've thought of everything right. You've got all the right materials here. I think all too often it's this black hole, and people don't really, they know they're paying into it, but what are they actually getting out of it other than their dealer saying, thanks for approving my invoice. I appreciate the check. No, it should be so much more than that. And that's where I think, just to give Jeff a little kudos here, he listened. He did a great job of hearing where brands are having issues with their co-op programs. They feel like they are the black hole of funds going in there, and they're not sure what they're getting out of it. So I think that level of accountability and so forth, that's something that co-market has. It's something that we've been suggesting more and more to our clients to be looking at. But if you go back a step, and this gets into the entire conversation that we've been talking about today about when sales and marketing are aligned, when they're working together, you've got all of these top of funnel activities. Well, when I look at something like a co-op program, this isn't top of funnel, they're mid funnel. They're looking at this specific product. They're looking at this specific service. They're asking questions now about, hey, how do I complete the sale? They're at the sales point at this program. So where and how can sales and marketing work together to create an experience that really makes sense to be offered, and then give that incentive then to the dealer to say, look, we've got it all thought out for you. Or, hey, we already know you're doing X, Y, and Z. Here's the program that can support that. And now we put in all the little checks and balances, and even coming back to, hey, did you capture all of your customers that went there? Do we have their contact information? Can we now be marketing to them in addition to you? I know sometimes dealers are a little fuzzy about that. But if you're giving them good information, it goes a long way. So, Jeff, I think Tom and I have both talked about co-market. If you could give a little background about what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Um, Basically, I've been a software developer for a lot of years, and I've been doing a lot of specialized programs for very large companies. And one of the things I came across 3 times were doing basically customized co-op implementations across 3 multi-billion-dollar companies. And after the third one, I realized there might be something there for a broader market. So I put everything together and started shopping it around, and I realized some of our smaller clients, all the way down to $1 million in revenue, all the way up to some of the larger ones, they're all very frustrated because they're using spreadsheets in general and they're not getting any information that they need to actually make good decisions. And also, things are slow. And as both Tom and Chris alluded to, there's not always a clear approval process in there. So repayments get slowed down. People get frustrated. People get very upset because things aren't happening and they when they need to. One specific example I have from a newer client is they have a field sales staff that goes out, and one of the biggest frustrations they have is they'll walk into a dealer and the dealer says, "Well, I'm going to do this event in 2 weeks, and I'd like $150 to buy like donuts and coffee or something." And the field sales guy calls up his boss, and she apologetically says, "Well, it's going to take me 2 weeks to figure out if we even have any money to spend. So I can't even give you approval yet." And so by the time the 2 weeks goes over to when the event's going to happen, they've lost that ability to co-sponsor an event because no one knows exactly how much money they have and when. And I think, as most of the people on the call know, toward this time of the year, everyone's frantically trying to spend the rest of their money. And so things slow down even more because there's no way to find out what can I actually spend. And so then there are lots of golf balls, there are lots of coffee mugs, there are lots of t-shirts sitting in warehouses all over the United States because people found they had some money to spend and they didn't want to lose it. So they have all this stuff that they can't spend. The other thing that a little higher level than that is another one of our clients. They wanted to build closer relationships. They about 700 million a year in revenue. They started when I started working with them with about $5 million in their co-op marketing budget. And because they were able to build closer relationships with their suppliers, they have about 130 of them, give or take. They were able to not only move their funding from encumbered to unencumbered because things move faster, their suppliers became more comfortable with them because they realized, here's all the information I need to know exactly what's happening. So they realized, and they could just look at it themselves. There's a way to come in and look at things. They realized they could trust my client with the money. And so it's gone from 5 over the last year to over $8 million in spending. And it's helped everyone. Not only is my client making more sales as a result, but the suppliers are making more sales because they're putting more money into it, and they're seeing that cycle that's starting to speed up. And so everyone is starting to make higher revenues based on the trust that having a good system, be it co-market or not, but a good system that allows the transparency, it allows the ability to track things, the ability to store information. And Chris and Tom both referred to having leads. Well, you can put against an event, and again, this could be a variety of systems, but co-market, you could put a spreadsheet in there. Here's everyone that came to the event, which means everyone has access to those leads. They can see right there, who do I need to contact, and put notes against them. And there are other customizations we can do, but in the broad strokes, it's a back-end system that's very low key that allows you to do your work without having to spend a lot of time administrating things. Because you can also, and this is another sign of a good system, can you send files out to accounts payable? Can you bring stuff in from accounts receivable easily? Or is this going to be a spreadsheet with 85 tabs on it and multiple people have access to it? So as a result, when you look at the numbers on that, are they accurate? Or did someone who maybe was tired at the end of the day or something miskey something? So instead of $500, it was $5,000 or something like that. So does the system allow them those bumper rails on both sides to make sure that things stay where they need to be? And if there's a question, it stops right there, and then someone else can look at it and say, "Oh no, this is what this needs to be." And so with the approval process and everything else, is the system good enough to allow things to move faster as you're going along? Along those lines, we have 2 questions so far. If anyone does have questions, please go to the Q&A tab at the top, and you can put a post in there. And so Tom and Chris and I can all see those. 2 broad questions that have come in are, and this is for people who don't necessarily have a system, but are still, let's say, working off spreadsheets. are there one or two key key performance indicators, KPIs, that each of you could maybe say that even if you don't have a robust system, let's say, that they should be looking at to help judge the ability of a co-op system or co-op program to be moving forward? And I apologize if that's too broad of a question. We can narrow it down a little bit. So um, I'm not sure if one of you want to tackle that or not. I have some
Yeah.
thoughts about. Oh, sorry.
Well, that can go so many different ways.
It can. It can. Yeah.
And so I'd go back and say, okay, what are we trying to accomplish? So if it's based on, look, you can only grow business so many ways. Add more customers, do more with the customers you have are two critical ways you can grow business. So some things I'd be looking at is, especially what's related to co-op marketing and co-op marketing initiatives, how much money are we dedicating towards new customer adoption? And then how many new customers did we add? And then what percent of revenue from existing customers are we allowing to co-op marketing? And how do we believe that's adding to our sales per customer? So I would say new customer metrics as well as sales per customer metrics would be there. When you look at a new customer, the sales per that customer is probably going to be lower because of how they start. Whereas an existing customer, a more mature customer, they should be buying multiple products from multiple product categories. Maybe they're more like a vending machine or a snowball that's getting bigger and bigger. So I think that's a long-winded answer to say, what's your adoption point or what are you trying for? And I think of new customers and revenue generated to get each new customer through the co-op program, or percent of revenue going to existing customers. Those would be two kind of KPIs I would look at. And then you need to go back and measure and say, was my spend effective? And then understand, was the issue the amount of spend or what was done with the spend before you decide if it was a good program or not. So there's some things on the backside to evaluate it. And you should really evaluate, the effectiveness of your use. But to answer that question, I think it's new customer adoption and sales per existing customer.
Okay. No, thank you. I appreciate it. I don't know if you have anything to add, Chris, or not, or if not, that's.
I think Tom gave a wonderful answer, and I'm not going to jump any more on that. So go ahead.
Fair enough. Well, does anyone else have any questions right now? That we had like two or three along those same lines asking about KPIs, and we don't have any more at the moment. With that being said,
Hey,
Tom,
Jeff,
did you
I've
have
got
something to add? Yeah.
just one on a perspective. In my corporate history, I typically worked for a manufacturer selling through a distributor or a dealer network, a business to business, someone whose intent is to buy my product with the intent to sell it. And a lot of times those people were selling it to someone who was going to buy the product with the intent to use it. And so I would have a distributor or a dealer between the manufacturer and the end user. And so I think of a lot of co-op programs are set by the manufacturer to support their channel, their distributor or dealer. And so it almost feels like from the top down, the co-market program would fit really well for a manufacturer. But as you've talked about it, I think about a distributor who deals with 5 to 500 vendors. It could be a really good tool for them to administer to their manufacturers and in turn their end users. Do you see people in that distributor dealer role taking advantage of it and utilizing it, or are you mostly on the manufacturer side?
Yeah. I'm mostly right now on the distributor side right now because they're the ones that are seeing the immediate need. Manufacturers, it's more of it's doing it now, but not seeing results for 9 months to 12 months. And so there's been a longer time period involved in getting this running versus the distributors can actually see a more immediate response to that is what I've been seeing personally with clients. And I've been trying to help manufacturers see that if they invest a little time now, they'll get those results later on, but they're not necessarily because a lot of them are looking at it along the lines both of what you both spoke about at the very beginning of the talk, which was that they are set in their ways. And so they know that everyone's doing it. So I'll give a 1%, 2%, 5%, whatever the numbers are of money back, but they don't think about it beyond that. So it's just basically an extra cost that's put in because they feel they need to. And trying to break them out of that mode of thinking has been a little bit more difficult than I anticipated, to be quite honest. We have two more questions that came in, if I may here. One of them is, what questions would you ask sales reps to help start conversations with what they need for marketing and create to help create the resources and support they need? I think that's more for you, Chris, maybe. I'm not sure.
I think it's honestly a little bit of both. And I'm just reading the rest of the question here. I feel
Okay.
like they always say things are good when I check in, but then later I find out they could have we could have supported them with specific product categories for sales, events, etc. This is wonderful because right here is, I think, one of the big issues between sales and marketing alignment. You're asking the right question. And unfortunately, I've found that a lot of times with salespeople, and I don't know if it's a, hey, I don't want you in my sandbox, or of course everything's fine. But this is where coming back and saying, realistically, nothing's perfect. There's always opportunity for improvement. And coming back and saying, look, I know you've got your process. Can I sit in? Can I listen to you or your sales team sell and hear what happens with that? What questions are you asking, et cetera? But I think it's by coming back and saying, asking that question, but then going a step beyond that and saying, look, from my experience, there's always things that we can be doing in marketing. Can I sit down? Can I listen through a sales call? Can we walk through the experience? And then when we're done, I might, because I'm going to be looking at it from a different perspective than a salesperson, be able to come back and say, hey, here's 5 things that I think we could do to help you, and use that as a door opener to start leading the discussion from there. Tom, I'm certain I want to jump in again on this, but I know you've got some thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really a consultative question. So I appreciate that question. A lot of times the salespeople don't know how to say that. And they're gonna answer the question with t-shirts and koozies and leads, right? Um, I would pose that question probably 2 different ways. One, if I were to give you, pick a dollar amount, $50,000 to apply to your market, to your territory, what would you do with it and why? How would you want that to help your business? Because they may not know exactly how to answer it. They don't think like a marketer. Marketing is a black box to a lot of people. Just money goes in and people feel certain ways about your brand, and we don't know how it works, but acronyms come out and voila, it's marketing. Chris, I think I summed that up pretty well. But I'd want to know where they'd invest money into their business and how they would see it helping them. What would they want to have done different? The other question I would ask, and I phrase it as the beer question. If we were to have a beer in 6 months and you were to say, my market, my territory is notably better than it is today, what are the 3 to 5 things that would be different then than now? And then you can start drawing a link to where are we today, where do we want to be, and what are the things standing in our place. Those are 2 disarming ways to get someone talking about what needs to be done on the business versus what they're doing in their business, and open up those ideas. And then the other thing is, you want to demonstrate your knowledge and understanding of them. So don't just take their answer. Ask them to elaborate on it. Ask them to tell me more. Elaborate further, tell me more about that. Act like I'm an idiot and I don't understand what you're talking about. What do you mean by that? Make sure you guys have common understanding of qualitative comments like more, better, faster. When you say more, what does more mean to you? How does more help you? And dig into their answers. So don't just take their answers at face value. Ask questions about their answers and get them to elaborate more. And I think you'll find a lot of gold, a lot of value can be created in that. So those would be the 2 questions I would say is one, if you could invest, if we were going to deploy $100,000 into your territory, what would you do with it? And if you were to come to me in 6 months and say, my territory is in a marketably better position, what's different than today? And then we can start identifying the hurdles to get in there.
Tom, great answer. I just want to reinforce what Tom said there, Maddie. Specifically, one of the things that we've seen, and he's absolutely right. We're marketers. We know what we do, and we're doggone good at it. Doesn't mean that everybody else understands it. Doesn't mean that everybody else gets it. I often fall into that trap where, of course, you understand what a pay-per-click program is, and of course, you understand what lead nurturing is all about, and things like that. It's very similar to going into a trade show booth and saying, "How can I help you?" They don't. They don't know even what to think about. So I think the more leading questions that you can give them where they start to talk, they start to share, they start to hit what are the challenges? Because once we know challenges, I don't want to say that our solutions don't matter because they do, but this is where I think the marketing people really come in of, hey, here's the challenges that sales are going through because nothing's perfect. So if you can start to find out a little bit more about the challenges, then you start to figure out what the solutions might be. And then you can have a more engaged discussion depending on where they're at in terms of their marketing knowledge and where to go with it. So great question. Great question all the way around.
Awesome. And we have one more question here. This company doesn't have any co-op in place right now. And what they're asking about are what are the pitfalls of starting up a co-op program?
Tom, I'll let you start because I think oftentimes co-op doesn't start unless there's a sales end to it. If marketing says I'm going to bring a co-op program into place, sales has to be the one that's going to deliver and get the excitement going behind it. So go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I think a couple pitfalls would be one, define it. Do what I call draw a box around it. Create your boundaries, create your barriers, know where you're going to play and what you're going to do. Don't compromise on your brand position. Don't allow someone to get away with eking away at your brand. Make sure everything is on point, on brand. And we decided to draw that box around it. Proper levels of authority. You don't want to have one person really close to the customer have the ultimate say of yes or no. Don't kill your time by making them get approval for every $50 item on $1 million customer. But when it gets to a point, have proper authority in place and make it efficient for them to get their information to get a yes. If I'm going to ask for approval on $1,000 and then I have to boil the ocean with my boss to get the approval for the $1,000, it's going to be killed. Make it efficient. The other thing is, I say draw that box around it and create the proper authority levels. Allow flex, allow proper flex to be in the program. And I'm going to go back to what's the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish. Now, I'm not saying, be a wet rag and have no backbone and just roll over on everything. But if our program is based on 1%, but we see this customer is on a growth trajectory and they're asking for something more in the 1.5% range. Again, have the right levels of authority in place, but be flexible for the right move and the right outcome. Unfortunately, not everything comes down to an exact dollar amount. If it did, we would know exactly what our margin is at the time of sale every time, but it varies. So I will tell you, one, have the proper levels of discipline and alignment for your program, but two, plan in enough flex that you're able to accomplish the larger goal. So I guess the third piece and probably the overarching piece is what's the overall can't speak. What is the overall, right? The overall goal for the program? What is the program trying to accomplish? And then go back in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months and say, is the program delivering on what our goal was or our thought process? And if not, change it. Now, maybe your goal was wrong, maybe your thought process was wrong, but you'll learn that throughout. So again, I think the three things are have proper discipline to the program, two, allow proper flex for the program, and three, know what the program is trying to accomplish. So when you go back and answer those questions, you can say, are we accomplishing our goal? Because it's easy to go down a rabbit hole and everyone has their opinions and it winds up being a really expensive lesson in wasting time.
Thank you, Tom. To be respectful of everyone's time here, we're stopping in about 5 minutes. If you have any questions, please do add them to the Q&A tab at the top. And with that, do either of you have any closing comments you'd like to make?
I just want to hit on just two quick things. And again, really appreciate the questions. I wanted to mention, though, to Tom's point about no co-op program in place, Amy, what are the pitfalls for starting up? Pilot it. Do a smaller group. oftentimes we've worked with clients and they roll it out to everybody all at once and then figure out where the mistakes are or where there's a misconnect, as Tom was just talking about. Choose 3, 4, 5, 10 dealers that you already have a good relationship with, or your sales team already has a good relationship. One, they're going to appreciate all the extra attention, the extra TLC that they're getting. But by piloting and letting them know, hey, we're rolling this out first to you, we're going to walk through, we're going to have a lot of different connection points. We're going to have a lot of feedback here because we want to know what we're doing right, what we're not doing right. I think oftentimes that's where one of the big mistakes is made. And that's also an opportunity to talk to Jeff about co-market as well. So, but with that, you have our contact information there. Again, my name is Chris Baldwin. I own True Digital Communications. If you've got questions specifically about marketing and how marketing and sales should work together, trust me, I've heard every horror story out there. I'd like to add some new ones to the list, but honestly, I'd really like to find some good opportunities to talk about what success looks like. And I'm always welcome to do that and have those types of discussions. Tom?
No, this is a topic, Chris, you and I have talked about, I don't know how many times over the phone or walking booths or whatnot, that I think there needs to be a better place where sales and marketing align. So I think we can continue that conversation. Feel very strongly about the value of the co-op program and the flexibility it has and the discipline it can bring to a program. And again, everything I focus on is improving the top line performance of companies and individuals. I think if we can squeeze out the noise and make simple, efficient, effectable, and scalable systems, businesses should look at and invest in that. And I think co-market is right in line with that.
I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. At this point, we don't have any other questions, and we're right up on our time limit here. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I greatly appreciate it. Chris, Tom, thank you very much for this discussion. I wrote down quite a few things that I need to think about myself, about how to move forward. And I hope that everyone has a good afternoon. And we'll let everyone know when we have our next one here. Hopefully, it'll be another couple months. Chris, you have something you'd like to add?
One final thing. If you got additional questions again for Tom, for Jeff, for me, please ask away. So you've got our contact information there. But I would highly encourage you, because I've seen Jeff present co-market, look at the program. If you've worked with another co-op program before, or more importantly, the Excel spreadsheet, this is so many levels above that and does so much better. So highly encourage you to give it a look. But Jeff, thank you for orchestrating this and allowing us the chance to sit and talk.
Thank you. Hope everyone has a good afternoon. Talk to you soon. Okay, the three of us should